Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary stories come to life. If you've subscribed for more stories, enjoy the ride now. Sam Carter had been running livestock on the frontier planet Kepler for 42b for 8 years, and in all that time, the strangest thing he'd found in his pastures was a two-headed calf that had turned out to be worth a small fortune to xenobiologists studying radiation-induced mutations. So when he discovered what looked like a crystalline egg the size of a dinner plate sitting in the middle of his north pasture after last night's meteor shower, his first thought wasn't alien artifact or first contact situation. His first thought was, please don't let this be something that's going to explode. The egg, and it was definitely an egg, despite looking like it had been carved from some kind of luminescent crystal, sat in a small crater that was still warm to the touch. Sam approached it cautiously, the way he might approach a potentially hostile bull, keeping his scanner ready and his escape route planned. Okay, mysterious space egg, he said conversationally, a habit he'd developed after years of working alone in remote pasturelands. What exactly are you supposed to be? The egg pulsed with soft blue light in response to his voice, which was either the most amazing coincidence Sam had ever witnessed or a sign that his day was about to get significantly more complicated. He activated his livestock scanner, hoping the agricultural equipment would provide some insight into what he was dealing with. The results were immediate and thoroughly unhelpful: biological matter detected, unknown species, elevated temperature readings, and what the scanner optimistically labeled as embryonic development indicators. Embryonic development, Sam repeated, studying the egg more closely. Now that his scanner had pointed it out, he could see subtle movements beneath the crystalline shell, shadows that shifted and pulsed with a rhythm that looked suspiciously like breathing. Sam had been born and raised on agricultural worlds, the son of livestock breeders who had taught him to recognize the signs of life in all its various forms. This egg contained something alive, something that was probably close to hatching based on the activity he could observe, and something that definitely didn't belong to any species in his agricultural databases. He could report his discovery to the colonial authority, who would send experts to study the egg while probably quarantining his entire ranch for the next 6 months. He could ignore it and hope it hatched into something harmless that would wander off on its own. Or he could do something that his practical farming experience suggested was probably the right thing, even if it was also probably the stupid thing. Well, Sam said to the egg, you're obviously not going to survive out here on your own, and you're clearly close to hatching. So I guess you're coming home with me. Transporting the egg proved to be the first challenge. It was heavier than it looked and warm enough that Sam could feel the heat through his work gloves. More concerning, it seemed to pulse brighter whenever he moved it, as if responding to handling or stress. Easy there, Sam murmured as he secured the egg in his transport vehicle. I'm trying to help, not hurt you. The pulsing settled into a steadier rhythm, and Sam could have sworn the egg's temperature decreased slightly. Either he was developing an overactive imagination, or the thing inside was actually responding to his voice and intentions. Back at his ranch, Sam set up what he optimistically called an incubation environment in his main barn, using livestock heating lamps and environmental controls to maintain steady temperature and humidity. His experience with various Earth species and their colonial adaptations had taught him that most eggs needed warmth, stability, and protection from environmental fluctuations. This is completely insane, Sam told the egg as he adjusted the heating system for the third time. I'm a cattle rancher, not a xenobiologist. I don't know anything about alien reproduction cycles or dietary requirements or whatever kind of environment you're supposed to hatch into. The egg pulsed brighter, and Sam could see more activity inside, definitely something moving, probably something that was getting ready to make its appearance in the world. But, he continued, settling into a chair beside his improvised incubator, I do know something about taking care of vulnerable critters who need help getting started in life. And whatever you are, you definitely qualify as vulnerable. Over the next few days, Sam found himself developing a routine around caring for the egg. He checked on it every few hours, adjusted the environmental controls based on what seemed to make it pulse more contentedly, and found himself talking to it more and more as if it could understand him. Your metabolism is definitely increasing, he observed on day 4, noting that the egg was now noticeably warmer and the movements inside were becoming more vigorous. "Whatever you are, you're getting ready to make an entrance." The egg's response was a particularly bright pulse that seemed almost like agreement. Sam had always been good with animals, something about his calm voice and patient approach that seemed to reassure even the most nervous livestock. Apparently, this extended to mysterious alien eggs, because his presence definitely seemed to have a settling effect on the thing. "You know," Sam said during one of his evening check-ins, "I probably should have reported you to the authorities by now. There are protocols for this kind of thing, regulations about potential biohazards and unknown species." The egg's pulsing became more agitated, as if it didn't like the sound of that idea. "But," Sam continued quickly, "the colonial authority tends to be more interested in studying things than taking care of them. And you're clearly going to need some taking care of once you hatch." The agitation settled back to the steadier rhythm he'd learned to associate with contentment. "Besides," Sam added, reaching out to gently touch the warm crystalline surface, "I've gotten kind of attached to you. Whatever you turn out to be, I'd like to make sure you get a good start in life." The response was the brightest pulse yet, and Sam could have sworn he felt something like warmth that had nothing to do with temperature spread through his chest. "Yeah," he said softly, "I think we're going to be just fine." That night, Sam woke to the sound of tapping, rhythmic, insistent tapping that was coming from the direction of the barn. He pulled on his boots and headed out to check on his unusual charge, arriving just in time to see hairline cracks spreading across the egg's crystalline surface. "Well," Sam said, settling into his chair and preparing for what promised to be either the most amazing or the most terrifying experience of his ranching career, "looks like it's showtime." The egg pulsed once more, brighter than he'd ever seen it, and then began to crack in earnest. Whatever was inside was finally ready to meet the world, and Sam Carter, practical livestock rancher turned accidental xenobiologist, was about to discover exactly what he'd been caring for during the past week. He just hoped it would be friendly. The hatching process took 3 hours and left Sam feeling like he'd just assisted in the most beautiful and exhausting birth he'd ever witnessed. The creature that emerged from the crystalline shell was about the size of his border collie, covered in iridescent scales that shifted through every color in the spectrum, with delicate wing membranes that looked like they'd been crafted from starlight itself. "Well, hello there," Sam said softly as the newly hatched being blinked up at him with eyes that were far too intelligent for comfort. "Aren't you something special?" The creature, Sam had immediately started thinking of it as Pip for reasons he couldn't quite explain, chirped in response, a sound like wind chimes mixed with birdsong. Then it took a shaky step forward and promptly tumbled over its own feet, wings flapping awkwardly as it tried to regain balance. "Easy there, little one," Sam said, reaching out instinctively to steady the hatchling. "Takes a while to figure out all those moving parts." Pip's response was to lean into his touch with obvious relief, those remarkable eyes never leaving his face. The trust was immediate and absolute, the kind of instant bonding that Sam had seen between newborn livestock and their mothers. "I guess that makes me your parent for now," Sam said, though something about the way Pip was looking at him suggested the arrangement might be more permanent than he'd intended. The next few days established a routine that Sam found both exhausting and oddly satisfying. Pip was curious about everything, intelligent enough to learn quickly, and possessed of an apparently boundless energy that kept Sam constantly on alert. The hatchling also seemed to have some kind of telepathic abilities, because it consistently anticipated Sam's actions and responded to his emotions even when he tried to hide them. "You can tell what I'm thinking, can't you?" Sam asked one morning as Pip immediately perked up when he decided to take a break from ranch work, despite the fact that he hadn't moved or spoken. Pip chirped and flapped its wings in what was obviously agreement, then proceeded to demonstrate its growing flying skills by circling Sam's head in a pattern that looked suspiciously like celebration. "Right. Mental communication with an alien hatchling. Because my life wasn't complicated enough already." But despite the challenges, Sam found himself growing genuinely attached to his unusual charge. Pip was affectionate without being clingy, intelligent without being demanding, and possessed of a playful sense of humor that reminded Sam why he'd always preferred animals to people. "Your mama's probably looking for you," Sam mentioned during one of their evening sessions, when Pip would curl up against his side while he read reports on his tablet. Assuming you have a mama. And assuming she's not going to be furious with the human who's been raising her baby. Pip made a soft sound that might have been worry or sadness, pressing closer to Sam's warmth. Hey, it's okay, Sam said, running gentle fingers over the hatchling's iridescent scales. Whatever happens, we'll figure it out together. The reassurance seemed to work, because Pip relaxed and resumed the purring sound it made when content. Sam had never heard anything quite like it, part cat, part engine, part music, but it had become one of his favorite sounds in the world. 3 weeks after hatching, Pip had grown noticeably and developed enough coordination to be genuinely helpful around the ranch. The hatchling seemed to have inherited not just intelligence but also instinctive understanding of animal behavior, often alerting Sam to problems with his livestock before he noticed them himself. "You're going to put me out of a job if you keep this up," Sam told Pip after the hatchling successfully guided a lost calf back to the herd using a combination of flight patterns and what appeared to be some kind of animal telepathy. Pip's response was a series of chirps that sounded suspiciously like laughter. "Yeah, laugh it up. See if I share my coffee with psychic alien ranch hands." The mention of coffee produced an immediate response of interest, because Pip had developed a fascination with human food and drink that Sam found both amusing and concerning. "No coffee for baby aliens," Sam said firmly. "I don't know how caffeine affects your species' nervous system, and I'm not eager to find out." Pip's disappointed chirp was so expressive that Sam almost relented. "Almost. Don't give me that look. You're already energetic enough without chemical stimulants." As if to prove his point, Pip immediately launched into an aerial display that involved loop-de-loops, barrel rolls, and a finale that looked like controlled crash landing directly into Sam's arms. "Show off," Sam said, but he was smiling as he said it. Life with Pip had brought a kind of joy to Sam's daily routine that he hadn't realized was missing. The hatchling's enthusiasm was infectious, its intelligence was genuinely engaging, and its obvious affection for Sam filled something in his chest that had been empty for longer than he cared to admit. Which made it all the more alarming when his proximity sensors started screaming about incoming aircraft on the morning of Pip's 4th week of life. "Multiple contacts," Sam's ranch AI announced in its maddeningly calm voice. "Configuration unknown. Estimated arrival in 15 minutes. Sam looked at Pip, who had gone very still and was staring up at the sky with an expression that looked like recognition mixed with anxiety. "Pip? Do you know what's coming?" The hatchling made a sound Sam had never heard before, complex, musical, and somehow conveying both excitement and fear. Then it flew to Sam and pressed against him with obvious need for comfort. "It's okay," Sam said automatically, though he was pretty sure it wasn't going to be okay at all. "Whatever happens, we'll handle it." Through his ranch's external cameras, Sam watched 7 sleek vessels descend from the sky in perfect formation. They were beautiful in the way that dangerous things often were, all flowing lines and predatory grace, clearly designed by beings who understood both aesthetics and intimidation. The lead ship landed in his main pasture with barely a whisper of displaced air. A ramp descended, and Sam got his first look at what was obviously Pip's people. She was tall, at least 6.5 feet, with scales that shifted through the same spectrum as Pip's but with patterns that suggested age and authority. Her wings were larger, more developed, and when she moved, it was with the fluid grace of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. "That would be your mother, I'm guessing," Sam said to Pip, who was trembling against his chest. The alien matriarch looked around Sam's ranch with obvious confusion, then her gaze fixed on the barn where Sam stood holding her offspring. Even at a distance, Sam could feel the weight of her attention like a physical force. "Well," Sam said, taking a deep breath and preparing to meet the most important person in Pip's life, "I guess it's time for introductions." He just hoped she was going to be reasonable about the whole human raising her baby situation. Sam had faced down charging bulls, territorial predators, and the occasional drunk colonist who thought ranchers were easy targets, but none of those experiences had prepared him for standing in his own barnyard holding an alien child while its mother approached with the kind of presence that made reality seem negotiable. Veralis, he somehow knew that was her name the moment she came close enough for him to see her face clearly, moved with predatory grace across his pasture. Her scales caught the morning sunlight and threw it back in patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, and her eyes were the same remarkable color as Pip's but with depths that suggested centuries of experience and authority. "You," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made Sam's bones resonate, "have been caring for my offspring." It wasn't a question, but Sam nodded anyway. "Yes, ma'am. Found the egg about a month ago, helped with the hatching, been looking after the little one since." Veralis stopped about 10 feet away, close enough that Sam could see the intricate patterns in her scales but far enough away that he didn't feel completely overwhelmed by her presence. Pip chirped from his arms, a complex sound that somehow conveyed recognition, relief, and something that sounded like pride. "My child speaks highly of you," Veralis said, and Sam realized she'd been having some kind of telepathic conversation with Pip while he watched. "This is unexpected." "Unexpected how?" "Unexpected because my species typically reacts poorly to separation from parents during the crucial bonding period immediately following hatching." Pip should have been anxious, fearful, possibly even failing to thrive without proper familial connection. Her large eyes fixed on Sam with uncomfortable intensity. "Instead, my offspring appears to be thriving exceptionally well." "Pip's a good kid," Sam said, automatically using the name he'd given the hatchling. "Smart, curious, helpful around the ranch. We get along just fine." "Pip? That's what I've been calling them. I'm not sure about gender conventions in your species. Pip is acceptable for now, and gender designation comes later in our development cycle." Veralis moved closer, and Sam caught a scent like ozone and flowers that seemed oddly familiar. "You named my child. Seemed like the polite thing to do. Can't just call someone, 'Hey you,' for a month." Something that might have been amusement flickered in Veralis's eyes. "And you have been teaching Pip about human customs?" "Some, I guess. Mostly I've been learning about Pip's capabilities and trying to keep up with the questions. Your kid is remarkably intelligent. Our children are born with enhanced cognitive capacity, yes. But intelligence alone does not explain what I am observing." She gestured to where Pip was contentedly settled in Sam's arms, showing no signs of distress despite being separated from their actual parent for weeks. "My offspring has bonded with you." "Bonded?" "Formed the primary attachment that typically develops between our young and their birth parents. It is a psychological and emotional connection that shapes personality development and social behavior for the remainder of an individual's life." Sam felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Are you saying I've accidentally interfered with Pip's normal development?" "I am saying you have become Pip's secondary parent according to the attachment patterns I can observe." Veralis studied Sam with the focused attention of someone trying to solve a complex puzzle. "Which should be impossible, given that you are not of our species and lack the telepathic abilities necessary for proper bonding." But clearly it is not impossible, because it has occurred." She extended one long-fingered hand toward Pip, who immediately reached out to touch her palm while maintaining contact with Sam. "My child has formed dual-parent attachments, with you serving as the nurturing caregiver and me as the birth connection. Is that a problem?" "It is unprecedented." Veralis continued to study Sam with those remarkable eyes. "Tell me, Samuel Carter of the Frontier Ranch, what do you know of my people?" "Honestly? Nothing. I didn't even know you existed until last month. We are the Drikari, explorers and guardians of the deep spaces between worlds. We travel in family groups, raising our young to understand both the wonders and dangers of the galaxy." She paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. "Our reproduction cycle is complex. Fertile females produce eggs only rarely, and the bonding period following hatching determines much of an individual's future psychological development. And I've been part of Pip's bonding period." You have been the entirety of Pip's bonding period. Which means that according to our customs and biological imperatives, you are now considered Pip's second parent with all the rights and responsibilities that designation carries. Sam stared at her. Rights and responsibilities. The right to participate in decisions regarding Pip's education, development, and future. The responsibility to provide guidance, protection, and emotional support throughout Pip's maturation process. Veralis moved closer still, close enough that Sam could see his own reflection in her eyes. The obligation to remain available to your offspring for the duration of their natural lifespan. Their natural lifespan being approximately 800 of your years. Sam felt his knees go weak. 800 years. The attachment bond you have formed with my child is not temporary, Samuel Carter. It is a permanent biological and emotional connection that will influence both your lives until death. And if I don't want that kind of responsibility? Then you will break my child's heart and potentially cause irreversible psychological damage. Veralis's voice carried a note of steel that made Sam very aware that he was dealing with a being who could probably level his entire ranch with a thought. Is that what you want? Sam looked down at Pip, who was watching the conversation with obvious understanding and growing anxiety. The hatchling's earlier contentment had been replaced by something that looked like fear that the human who had become their family might abandon them now that their real parent had arrived. No, Sam said firmly, surprised by the certainty in his own voice. That's not what I want at all. Then what do you want, Samuel Carter? Sam considered the question, thinking about the past month of caring for Pip, of watching the hatchling grow and learn and develop into a remarkable individual who had brought joy and purpose to his solitary life. I want to keep being Pip's parent, he said finally. I want to help them grow up into whatever they're meant to become. And I want to make sure they always know they're loved and wanted, no matter how complicated this situation gets. The transformation in Veralis's expression was immediate and profound. The predatory authority softened into something that looked like relief mixed with genuine warmth. In that case, she said, we should discuss the arrangements for co-parenting an offspring whose development will require the input of both human and Drikari perspectives. Co-parenting? You did not think I would simply leave my child here and return to space, did you? If you are truly committed to serving as Pip's second parent, then we will need to coordinate our efforts to ensure optimal development outcomes. Sam felt the weight of what she was suggesting settle around him. You're talking about staying here. On my ranch. Long term. I am talking about establishing a permanent presence in this sector so that my child can benefit from both parents' guidance and cultural knowledge. She smiled, an expression that transformed her entire face and made Sam suddenly very aware that Veralis was not just powerful and alien, but also remarkably beautiful. Unless you have objections to sharing your ranch with an extended alien family. Looking at Pip's obvious happiness at having both parents present, and feeling something warm and unexpected stirring in his chest at the thought of Veralis as a permanent part of his life, Sam realized that his quiet ranching days were officially over. No objections, he said. Though we're definitely going to need to expand the house. 6 months later, Sam stood on the expanded deck of what had once been his simple ranch house and was now something that could only be described as an interspecies family compound. The modifications had been necessary to accommodate Veralis's presence, higher ceilings for her wings, specialized environmental controls for her comfort, and what she diplomatically called cultural integration spaces that looked suspiciously like alien technology disguised as home furnishings. The morning routine is becoming more efficient, Veralis observed, joining him on the deck with her usual grace. Pip's transition between human and Drikari educational components is showing marked improvement. Pip's also becoming remarkably good at manipulating both their parents to avoid the lessons they don't like, Sam replied with fond exasperation. As if summoned by their conversation, Pip emerged from the house in full dramatic mode, wings drooping, scales shifting to mournful blues and grays, emanating the kind of telepathic sadness that could melt the heart of anyone within 50 yards. Mathematical concepts are boring, Pip announced, settling onto the deck with elaborate dejection. And human arithmetic is primitive compared to Dree-Carey's spatial calculations. And yet you still need to understand both systems if you want to help manage ranch logistics, Sam said, unmoved by the performance. Nice try though. Father Sam is correct, Verilis added, though Sam caught the slight upturn of her lips that suggested she was as amused as he was by their offspring's theatrics. Cultural fluency requires mastery of multiple perspective frameworks. Besides, Sam continued, you promised to help me figure out the feed distribution calculations for the new grazing rotation. Can't do that without understanding basic mathematical principles. Pip's dejection evaporated instantly, replaced by bright enthusiasm. The new rotation system that incorporates aerial survey data and predictive grazing patterns. That's the one. And I get to use both human farming techniques and Dree-Carey environmental optimization algorithms. If you can demonstrate competency in the underlying mathematical concepts, yes. Pip launched into the air with excitement, performing aerial loops that had become their signature expression of joy. I will master all the mathematics. Every human number system and every Dree-Carey calculation method. That's what I thought, Sam said as Pip zoomed back toward the house with renewed academic enthusiasm. You are becoming quite skilled at parental manipulation techniques, Verilis observed once Pip was out of earshot. 8 years of managing livestock taught me that the key to cooperation is making the desired behavior feel like the individual's own idea. Sam looked at Verilis, still marveling at how natural her presence in his life had become. Though I have to admit, Pip makes it easy. They're genuinely curious about everything. Our species values knowledge and exploration above most other traits. Pip is developing exactly as expected for a healthy Dree-Carey offspring. She paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. Though the incorporation of human perspectives is creating some interesting variations in their developmental patterns. Good variations or concerning variations? Fascinating variations. Pip is demonstrating problem-solving approaches that combine Dree-Carey intuition with human practicality in ways I have never observed. They may well become the first truly bicultural individual of our species. Sam felt a surge of pride mixed with affection as he watched Pip through the window, already absorbed in mathematical texts with the kind of focused intensity that reminded him of both parents. Speaking of bicultural development, Verilis said, the Dree-Carey Council has officially recognized our co-parenting arrangement and requested documentation of our methods for potential application in other interspecies contact situations. They want to study us. They want to understand how a human with no telepathic ability successfully bonded with a Dree-Carey offspring, and how that relationship has enhanced rather than hindered the child's development. She moved closer to the deck railing, her scales catching the afternoon light. You have become something of a celebrity among xenobiologists. Wonderful. Fame was exactly what I was looking for when I decided to become an accidental alien parent. Your reluctance toward attention is one of the qualities the Council finds most intriguing about you. Verilis turned to face him directly, and Sam felt that familiar flutter of awareness that had been growing stronger over the months they'd been living together. Among my people, those who demonstrate natural parenting abilities are highly valued. Highly valued how? Highly valued as potential long-term partners for those seeking to raise offspring. Her voice carried a note of something that made Sam's pulse quicken. Pip is not likely to be my only child, Samuel Carter. Dree-Carey who successfully reproduce typically continue to do so throughout their fertile cycles. Sam felt the implications of her words settle around him like pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. Are you asking if I'd be interested in helping you raise more children? I am asking if you would be interested in formalizing our partnership according to both human and Dree-Carey customs. She stepped closer, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. I am asking if you want to build a family with me that extends beyond our shared commitment to Pip. Sam looked at her, really looked at her, taking in the intelligence in those remarkable eyes, the strength in her bearing, the gentle affection she showed toward both him and Pip in countless small daily interactions. Over the months they'd been co-parenting, Verilis had become not just Pip's mother and his partner in child-rearing, but his closest friend, his most trusted advisor, and increasingly, the person he looked forward to seeing every morning and missed every evening when she retreated to her own quarters. "Veralis," he said carefully, "are you talking about marriage?" "I am talking about the Dracari equivalent, a formal bonding between individuals who choose to share their lives, their resources, and their reproductive futures." She reached out to touch his hand with fingers that were warm despite their alien nature. "I am also talking about the human equivalent, if that is what you would prefer." "What I would prefer," Sam said, feeling certainty settle in his chest like something that had always been waiting there, "is whatever makes us officially family in both our culture's eyes." "And you are prepared for the implications?" "A relationship with me means accepting a life that extends far beyond this ranch, occasional travel to other worlds, the possibility of multiple children who will all be as curious and energetic as Pip." Sam thought about his life 6 months ago, quiet, solitary, predictable, and then looked through the window at Pip, who was now attempting to demonstrate Dracari mathematical concepts using human livestock models, creating what appeared to be either breakthrough educational theory or complete chaos. "Veralis," he said, 6 months ago I was a bachelor rancher whose biggest excitement was the occasional difficult calving. Now I'm the co-parent of an alien child who's smarter than I am, the partner of a woman who can literally fly, and apparently some kind of interspecies relations pioneer. And I've never been happier in my life." He took her hand, marveling at how perfectly their fingers fit together despite their obvious differences. "So yes, I'm prepared for whatever implications come with building a life together. Bring on the interstellar travel and the multiple brilliant children and whatever other adventures our family might include. Even if those adventures occasionally involve explaining to galactic authorities why our ranch has become an unofficial cultural exchange center. Especially if they involve that." Sam grinned, pulling her closer. "Besides, someone has to make sure all those visiting xenobiologists understand proper livestock management techniques. And someone has to ensure that our children understand both the practical wisdom of human agriculture and the cosmic perspective of Dracari exploration." Veralis smiled, the expression that never failed to make Sam feel like he'd discovered something precious. "I believe we complement each other well, Samuel Carter." "I believe you're right, Veralis of the Dracari." As if summoned by the emotional significance of the moment, Pip burst through the door, wings flapping with excitement. "I have solved the mathematical integration problems," they announced. "And I have designed an improved feed distribution system. And I have calculated the optimal flight patterns for aerial ranch surveys." "That's wonderful," Sam said, opening his arms to catch Pip in their customary celebration embrace. "Does this mean we can implement the new systems immediately?" Pip asked, settling against Sam's chest with obvious contentment. "It means we can start planning implementation," Veralis said, joining the embrace with the natural ease that had developed over months of family interactions. "After proper review and safety testing. And after you finish your other educational requirements," Sam added. "All of them?" Pip asked with obvious dismay. "All of them," both parents said simultaneously, then looked at each other with the kind of understanding that comes from true partnership. As they stood together on the deck of their expanded home, watching the sun set over pasturelands that now served as both working ranch and interspecies cultural center, Sam reflected on the strange chain of events that had brought them together. A crystalline egg in his pasture had led to unexpected parenthood, which had led to partnership with an alien woman, which had led to a family structure he never could have imagined. "No regrets?" Veralis asked softly, her telepathic abilities apparently extending to reading his emotional state even without formal bonding. "No regrets," Sam confirmed, tightening his arms around his family. "Though I do think we're going to need a bigger barn if we're planning on more children." "We'll expand as needed," Veralis assured him. "Dracari are quite skilled at adaptive architecture." "Good," Sam said, looking out at the ranch that had become home to the most unlikely and most beloved family in the galaxy, "because something tells me our adventures are just getting started."